So these are our beets that we heated up to 165 degrees, and these are out of my garden. So these are fairly fresh. They were picked just yesterday. So we're going to go ahead and put these in the colander and get them ready to slice up and to freeze dry. Now, there are very few foods I do not enjoy in life. Actually, there's two main ones, and that's liver and beets. I think the thing I don't like about beets is their sweet taste that just I have a problem with. But yes, they're good for you. I realize that. Now these were scrubbed before they were cooked, scrubbed well, because beets are very hard to peel. So we're going to peel these after the fact, and then we're going to go ahead and process them. In fact, when I checked the temperature on this was actually 188 degrees, well past the required 165. Beets have always been a popular baby food. Beets have folic acid, which is vitamin B9, magnesium, potassium, iron, vitamin C. Of course, beets are very well known for their staining ability. And in the past, we've had many a carpet stained with beet juice or beets from our babies. Now, it's highly recommended on your vegetables and fruits to peel them before cooking them to 165 degrees. Beets is one of those foods that's kind of difficult to peel, so if you can't peel it prior to cooking, then wash them really thorough. So these have been thoroughly cooked to 165 degrees, and we're going to go ahead and peel these and slice them up and process them for the freeze dryer. Well, after a set of stained hands, we are done peeling the beets. And now we're going to slice up the beets. So we're just going to slice them like we would do any other vegetable. And then we're going to go ahead and lay these in the Harvest Right tray. Now there's a couple of thoughts about this. One would be to take the beets now and go ahead and send them through a food processor and puree them and then freeze dry them. The other thought is slice them, freeze dry them, and then grind them up into a powder. So talking with Dr. Alborn, who has a PhD in food sciences, he suggested to go ahead and slice them, freeze dry them, and then powder them, because prior to freeze drying, a lot of these vegetables and fruits will have some pretty aggressive fibers, and if you puree them now, some of those fibers may not be fine enough, so to speak. But if you freeze dry them and then grind them up, then the fibers will be in smaller pieces, if that makes sense. So we're going to go ahead and slice these up, freeze dry them, and then send them through the food processor, and then grind them up into a powder into the final product for our baby food. So the beets are ready to go into the freeze dryer. Actually, the beets are ready to go into the freezer because we're going to pre-freeze these first and then put them into the freeze dryer. And once I put them in the freezer, I think I'm going to bleach my hands and get all the red dye. So for for the baby food, beets is ready, and we're going to go and move on to the next food. In preparing food for babies and infants, there's a fine line between nutrition and safety. We want to get the food to a safe degree of 165, but yet we don't want to overcook it to lose nutrition. Overcooking food is one of the fastest way to decrease nutrition in a food, but we want to make sure the food is cooked enough that it is safe. So in determining 165 degrees, I have this little device right here that's set at 165, and when it is put into water, if it's hotter than that, of course the alarm will go off. So we're almost approaching boiling here. Another way you can test the temperature of food is with a non-contact thermometer. This is the way I actually prefer it. Now, we want to cook the food to 165. We don't want the water to be at 165. So this is almost like a modified blanching method, but rather than worry about 3 or 5 minutes in a hot water bath for blanching, we just want to get the food to 165 degrees, and we're not interested in time. One other thing about blanching is we are not going to be using any salt. We do not want to put any extra salts or sugars in the food for baby and infants. So what we're going to go ahead and do, we have the string beans that have been cut and pre-washed, and so we're going to go ahead and put those into the hot water bath here. And like I said, we're not interested in the water temperature being 165. We're interested in the food being at 165. So as this food is cooking, we can take our thermometer and we can just kind of scan the food, and we can see that the surface is about 142, 143. So of course that's far away from 165. So we're just going to leave this in here and check from time to time until the surface of the food, and that's where the bacteria is going to lie. The bacteria is going to be on the surface and in the open cut ends of the food. We're not interested in getting the depth of the food at 165, just the surface. We want to kill the bacteria but preserve the nutritional value of the food. Because babies have very little gut bacteria in their system, and we want to make things as safe as possible for the little tykes. So we're getting just barely boiling here. We're going to take a sample. Okay, we're at 168, 167, 70, so that food is hot enough. It is past 165 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and remove it from the heat and chill it down. Now as we do this, and I'm sure everything in your house is clean, and maybe I'm just being a little bit anal, but we want to make everything that we're processing, the bowls are clean, the utensils are clean, that everything is clean, because we want to protect those little kids, babies, infants, and give them a fighting chance in the world. So we want to make sure that everything that goes into them is going to be clean. But then again, you can kind of tell what's the story or the joke, how you can tell how many kids a mother has is how she treats the pacifier. If a pacifier falls on the ground and she picks it up and wipes it off and sterilizes it, puts it back in the baby's mouth, that's child number one. Child number two, she'll pick up the pacifier, wipe it off with her fingers, put it back in the mouth. Child number three, she picks up the pacifier and sticks it back in the baby's mouth. So, I mean, kids are going to pick up dirt and all sorts of stuff like that. But like I said, we just want to make sure that the food we feed them is going to be safe and healthy. So we're going to do the same thing with the wax string beans. We're going to go ahead and put them into hot water, bring up the beans to 165 degrees, not the water, but the beans. And we'll go ahead and quench them in the ice water and put them on the freeze dryer tray. So with pre-washing food that's going to be used on our babies and infants, we want to get the food as clean as possible, especially anything that might be in the ground like a carrot. So what I have set up here is I have a pre-wash right here, and this is where I'm actually going to be taking all the dirt and mud and sand and whatever actually off the carrot. And all the sand is going to fall down and all the dirt's going to fall down to the bottom of this. This is not going to go down the drain because you don't want to screw up your plumbing. This needs to be thrown outside along with all the dirt and sand that's going to be in the bottom of this. My second wash here is just to make sure everything is nice and clean. I actually have a clean scrub brush that I'm going to use to scrub this. Now, even though I'm going to peel this carrot, I want to make sure that the outside is going to be as clean as possible, because as I peel this carrot, there's always a possibility of having surface bacteria that I'm going to peel off could contaminate the good carrot that's underneath. It's just going to transfer. So it's somewhat like when you cut through a vegetable. If there's surface bacteria and you cut through the carrot, the knife blade is going to carry that bacteria through the cut and could contaminate the other thing. So I'm not being paranoid. We just want to get this food as clean as we possibly can, since this food is going to be eaten by our children. So once these are all cleaned, then these will be peeled like with a standard peeler, and then we're going to go ahead and do a modified blanch with the carrots. I'm working on my carrots. They've been peeled and the ends have been cut off, because you just think about it, there's all sorts of little crevices and cracks on the ends that bacteria can go in and hide. And if you take a look at this one right here, so if you take a look at this one has like this crevice going all the way through it, and there's a good place for bacteria to hide where these cracks are. So as you're peeling these carrots, you want to be conscious of any imperfections where any amount of dirt or bacteria can hide. I mean, we have this little mark here, and we have another cut here. So as we're cutting these up, I'm just going to cut these away and not include them in my batch. Like I'm saying, just be safe, rather safe than sorry. Now, what I'm about to tell you may sound a little bit hypocritical, but this is about the only time we're actually just going to blanch a carrot without bringing it to 165 degrees. And the reason is carrots are filled with beta carotene, and cooking carrots too much or even blanching them can remove up to 30% of the beta carotene that's within a carrot. So talking to Dr. Alborn, what he suggested to do is to peel, clean and peel the carrots, but leave them whole, and then blanch the entire carrot like we have here, just for the 3 minutes in a rolling boil, and then take them out and cool them down. That way, all the beta carotene that's going to be deep inside the carrot will survive, and everything inside the carrot is going to be clean anyway. It's just the outside we're concerned about. So we're going to go ahead and put these into the boiling water, and we're going to set the timer for 3 minutes. Okay, it's been 3 minutes, so the carrots are coming out into the ice water. And once they're cooled, we'll go ahead and slice them up and put them on the tray. Okay, so I have my carrots and I have my string beans. They're all ready to go into the freezer and to be pre-frozen and to throw into the freeze dryer. So I got one tray left. This is my first batch of freeze-dried food for babies and infants. We got the green beans, wax beans, we got beets and carrots. These are pretty popular flavors. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and throw these through the food processor and powder them, and then put them in individual bags. I get a lot of questions on what kind of food processor I have. I really don't know what the brand this is because I can't see a label Just something I picked up, I think, at Walmart. But I do use this blade that rides low in the container that really chops everything up really nice. So we're going to go ahead and start with the string beans. And it may look like a lot, but when it becomes a powder, it loses its volume quite quickly. So when this comes out, it's just a fraction of what it used to be. It's a nice soft powder, and we're going to go ahead and package it up, but we're not going to package it up in the traditional Mylar bag, but we'll show you that when we get to that point. For packaging, I have these little Ziploc bags. They're for snacks. I'm not going to use an oxygen absorber because this food is going to be used in just a week or two, so there's really no reason to put this in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber unless you're going to keep this for long-term storage. But this food is going to be used up in just a matter of weeks. So I'm just going to put it in these little teeny Ziploc bags. We can use a canning funnel to put that into it. So just so we have something like this, I'll put the name and the date on it. And this is probably going to be 3 to 4 servings. Could even be more than that, depends on how hungry the little tyke may be. So I'm going to go ahead and do this with all the other food, and we'll see you then. When you're finished with this project, you'll end up with almost all the color of the rainbow. I have my green beans, my beets, my wax beans, and my carrots. Now, one of the things I noticed as I was grinding these up, it'd probably be best to go from light to dark. Although I cleaned the food processor after each cleaning, the beets really made like a staining event. So just something, it's a little bit easier maybe to do the beets last. And depending on how fibrous the vegetables are, will kind of determine how nice and fine they are. The beets actually were the finest. A little bit of fiber on the string beans. The carrots turned out to be pretty good. But this is just a starting. You can also do bananas, would be a really popular one. Sweet potatoes is popular. We have yellow squash, and even avocados can be considered for baby and infant foods. And as they become older, then you can start mixing your foods, adding fruits and vegetables together in different blends, and then adding meats and other foods. And I'll be making videos showing those processes as well. So these are some of the beginning foods. Even before these foods, simple cereals like rice and barley cereals can be used to introduce your infants and babies to solids. So this is just one other way that you can use your freeze dryer for your home storage. Now, if I was making a whole bunch of this food, then yes, I could put this in a Mylar bag or in a jar with an oxygen absorber and save it for years to come. But in these small little snack size storage bags, this can be used immediately. It's something that can be easily taken with you in a diaper bag, and so it's almost an instant food wherever you go. It's already been cooked, so you don't have to worry about that. You just have to add water. Now, as I was doing this little research, it's up to you whether you want to freeze dry your food first and then grind it up, or do you want to maybe cook it, grind it up, and then freeze dry it. But if you're going to put it into a powder form, eventually the end process is you're going to have to grind it up. So either way is going to be fine as long as you have it in an instant method before you end up packaging it. So I hope you find this helpful. If you like this, please subscribe, and I will have more videos to come. And thank you for your time.